Genesis 24 details the entire book of Genesis. For we observe that God acts not only in great cases, however, in the common and daily details of life. As we read the text, we see how God guides paths, answers prayers, and fulfills his promises in a practical and extraordinary way. The chapter begins with Abraham making a request to his oldest servant to find a wife for his son Isaac, for he was already of very advanced age. The story records above all the faith, the goodness, and the guidance of God toward his people. God blessed Abraham in everything. Swearing to God was very important to Abraham because he did not want his son to take a woman from among the daughters of the Canaanites, not out of prejudice. However, for a religious reason, due to the Canaanite people who worshipped other gods, he asks his servant to swear. The expression, God of heaven, spoken by Abraham demonstrates his immense faith, as well as that of his servant, testifying to his covenant with God, for his generation that will inherit the promised land. God sent his angel to speak with the servant, so that he would successfully complete the mission given to him. The angel is the presence of God. The servant took 10 camels, because at that time having camels was a sign of wealth. Then, the servant departs with all the good things from his master to Haran, located to the east on the high banks of the Euphrates, the city of Nasr, who was Abraham's brother. Every day in the morning and at dusk, the women went to the fountain to get water. The servant, upon arriving in the city, took the camels to this well and there knelt down and said, God of my lord Abraham. It was by his faith that he prayed in this way, calling on God by the covenant made with Abraham, as an act of loyalty, which means the goodness and attributes of God. The servant, then, asked God for a sign, saying that the one who gave water to the camels would be the one chosen by God to be the wife of Abraham's son. In addition, lo, as the servant was near the well, a woman appeared and said to him, I will draw water for your camels. This was the sign. This young woman was named Rebekah, and the servant gave her a ring and 2 gold bracelets as a gift. She, not understanding anything, wonders why she was receiving such valuable gifts, things that were normally not offered to strangers. The servant asked her whose daughter she was, for at that time single young women were known by their fathers and married women by their husbands. Rebekah was the daughter of Bethuel, who was the son of Milcah and Nahor, who was the brother of Abraham. Rebekah, after receiving the gifts, tells the servant that there is plenty of space to accommodate him in her house. The servant recognized the generous grace of God in sending him the sign and knelt to worship him and said, Blessed be God. He truly prayed to God, declaring that God guided him to the house of Abraham's brother, Laban, who was Rebekah's brother. He offered a warm welcome to the servant. In addition, when they offered him food, he said he would not eat until he had spoken his words, because God had guided him divinely, and he wanted to delay the moment of eating to tell the extraordinary story to Rebekah's family. The servant, very emotional, reported everything that had happened, not forgetting a single detail. Laban and Bethuel responded that everything that had happened proceeded from God, showing that they also worshipped God. Both the father and the brother recognized the work of God, telling the servant that Rebekah is in their presence. Before any action, the servant knelt down to thank God. According to tradition, the servant used his master Abraham's possessions to gift Rebekah's family, beside the gift he had already given her. Until this moment, nothing was said regarding Rebekah's wishes, but her word, I will go, demonstrated her will. Her family then set out, with her nurse and Abraham's servant and 6 men. They bless her, giving the formal blessing for her marriage, which represented a prayer for God to bless her life and the new family she will build. In the quote, May you be thousands upon thousands. These were words that reinforce God's promise to Abraham and Sarah, for one of Rebekah's sons will have dominion over his enemies. Thus, the servant took Rebekah and departed. Isaac was returning from the well La Roy, which was in Negev, where he lived, and when he lifted his eyes, he saw the camels coming. Rebekah, who also lifted her eyes, saw Isaac in the pavilion and asked the servant who he was. In addition, the servant answers that he is her lord. Then, Rebekah took the veil and covered herself, because at that time it was appropriate for a young single woman to wear the veil in the presence of a man. The servant reported to Isaac everything that had happened. After the servant's words, Isaac took Rebekah to his mother's tent. This was a form of respect when one wanted to introduce someone to the entire community. Rebekah was Isaac's wife, and he loved her very much. The sadness of Isaac over the death of his mother was subdued by the happiness of his marriage, which was made with a union of love. God is providential, fulfilling all his plans and prodigies so that everything happens according to his will and everything that is truly good for us. We must do everything with love, for when everything passes and ends, the only thing that remains is love, and this means the essence of life and the essence of God. We see that God is faithful in all things. Abraham continued to be very blessed, and as he had a loyal and God-fearing servant, he assigned him to find a wife for his son Isaac. The servant found her in Abraham's own distant relatives. Abraham wanted to marry his son Isaac to a woman who had the same faith in God as his family. Abraham knew that the Canaanites did not believe in God and had their own idols. Thus, he wanted for his son a woman who shared the same faith. In 2 Corinthians, Paul warns us about the unequal yoke in union and its possible consequences, as in the life of Solomon when he joined with women who did not obey God. Rebekah is shown as a distinguished young woman who not only gave water to the servant but also to the camels. It is known that camels can drink up to 100 liters of water at once when thirsty. Therefore, in addition to hospitality toward the servant, Rebekah also possessed qualities that were noticed by everyone, such as kindness, patience, and sensitivity, which made them suppose that she would treat her master's son well. In addition, we, as women in these times, are we willing to do more than what is asked of us? In our home, in our family, and in the general context of society. This attitude of Rebekah undoubtedly made her a valuable woman. We see that we must trust in God's guidance. That is why we need and must pray for instruction. For God is not distant from circumstances. He listens and responds when we pray and ask for direction. We also see that character matters, especially in today's world, when everything revolves around appearance and status. However, God values the heart. Faith, valor, and temerity in the sense of love show confidence in God's plans. Often, following God requires steps of conviction, certainty, and faith. In addition, we must be willing to obey, even without seeing the full picture. For the will of God is what must prevail. Humility, obedience, and wisdom are situations that lead us to recognize the hand of God. Because when we do not rush and do not force circumstances, but pray, we see God in the guidance of everything. In a world busy and anxious for quick answers, these attitudes inspire us. We can also observe in the chapter that marriage is something very serious to God, for the family constitution is sacred to Him. Then, we should trust in God's plans, which are always better and greater for us. Did you like the content? Leave your like, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more inspirational messages.